Okay, so we're going again over the master class. And we're going over chapter 3, which is Mochi's chapter on Backgames. And so for this section, we're going to do some basic cube uh, information from Mochi. And Mochi, unlike the first chapter that Mochi did, the Backgames chapter it's a very broad topic. And so Mochi covers a few things, mostly with checker play and his examples and provides explanation for. For the cube, he talks a little bit about the cube, but doesn't provide a lot of examples. So um, I'll give you some of the basic things that he described, and mostly they come from one chart, um, and which is what I have here in this spreadsheet. And so we'll tell you what the chart says and how to read it, and then I'll try to stretch it out a little bit more. There's a little bit more that you could say. Part of the problem is that vacuums are very complicated, and there are a lot of factors that come in, and it's you know it really requires probably a whole book on it, or probably more than that, to really cover it adequately. Um, and so they wanted to devote one chapter to it, and so we're kind of hitting some broad highlights. So I'll try to hit the broad highlights, and also go a little bit deeper into certain things if you want to look at them more. And again, try to keep it as simple as I can, but still providing useful information. So um, the basics idea of this is that um, the way that you evaluate the vacuums and when you cube, and this assumes that you have it cubed already, but if you're getting toward the end here, we're going to look at how many points you have to clear before the first anchor. And so generally you're going to have either 3 or 4 points to clear, and that's the point at which you double. And after either when you have and that's a borderline double, and that's a take. And then if you have 2 or 3 points to clear, that's going to be the borderline take. That's the big double borderline take pass. So now what do I mean by that? So let me take this off and show you an example. So here we have a 3-4 back game, and we have 3 points to clear in front of the front anchor. So according to Mochi's chart, here's the 4-3 back game or 3-4 back game. Actually, I should mention that, and I didn't have a chance. I'm in Washington right now, but I didn't have a chance to go back and just confirm this. But Mochi didn't even write down all the different types of back games they have. So I went back and tried to add them as best I could. He didn't talk about the 3-4. I didn't show up in his chart, and he didn't talk about the 1-4 and the 2-4 at all. But they seem to be in line with what he called the high back game, as opposed to the deep back games, the 1-2, 1-3, 2-3. And I threw the 3-4 in with the deep back game. So it's kind of on the border. Yeah, he didn't say this for these games. The 1-5 back game, he didn't put it on this chart. He basically said to treat it like a holding game. Don't know exactly what he meant by that, but it's not a very strong back game as far as back games go. Anyway, I won't go into that too much. But in any case, we're looking at on this example of 3-4 back game. And so when you have 3 points cleared, 3 points to clear, that should be the borderline double and a take, big take. And when we have 2 points to clear, that's the borderline pass, take pass. And so that's the basic idea with this. So here, 3-4 back game, according to the chart, if you have 3 points to clear, this is a take. This is the borderline double, and it's a take. And so here, Actually, it's a little bit more than a borderline double, but an instinct. Oh, now I should also mention that uh, Mochi does say, and again, this is another area where uh, it gets can be pretty complicated. That we're assuming here that you have ample timing for the back game. The black will have ample timing for the black game, um, and that you have a reasonable distribution of the board for the for black. So Mochi didn't talk about that. I'll talk a little bit about that, but we'll show you in a minute. So generally, a well-timed back game is probably 100 pips behind. So behind the minus 99 here, so black is 100 pips behind. That's generally considered good timing, and it generally applies to all the back games. The deeper the back game, the more timing you need. So you can play a 3-4 is kind of the middle back game as opposed to a high back game or a low back game. But 100 pips is fine for that. So here we have 100 pips. It's a double and a take. You can see if we reduce black's timing a little bit. Now we get this is closer. This is still a double and take, but the more we move up, the weaker it gets. If you take all the timing away, although actually this one is still a double and take. Bad example on that one. Let's look at a deeper back game. So this is a 2-4. Let's look at it 2-3. So we're going to a 2-3. 2-3 here. 3 points to clear is a double. 2 points to clear is a pass. So here we've got 4. This should let's give it better timing. So this is about nearly 100 pips of timing. This is 4 points to clear, and it's a no double. If we move white in a bit, so we have 3 points to clear. This is a double and a take. Okay, and this is with adequate timing. If we take black's timing away, this is still, this becomes a pass. So now Mochi didn't provide any guidelines on terms of this timing. When does it switch over? I guess it depends. I've been playing around a little with it. I don't have any clear guidelines on how that works, or what exact timing you need. But just so it's enough to say that with 100 pips, you're probably pretty good. I would guess that when you get down to where you've got like 1 or 2 more rolls here before you're going to be forced to break your board, that's not good enough time. You need a couple rolls. 3 or 4 would be better before you break your board. So now let's get.
Gary, I see you've got Jacobi rule ticks. Does that make any difference?
Oh yeah, Jacobi.
It probably
I didn't look at
it does, surprisingly.
But. It probably is going to make a difference in whether you double it up, because here, one of the things I'll talk about a little bit is that if you look at these back games, white's got 58% to win, which is not exactly overwhelming here in terms of the win percentage, but it's got 42% gammons. And so so Jacobi rule is going to make a difference, because there's no point in playing this game if you can't get the gammon. I mean, it's certainly much less threatening than the gammon. So let's just look at this. It's 0.041. And if you have the Jacobi rule, it's 0.063. So it makes a difference. Probably not that much difference to worry about here for money games. I'll talk a little bit about match scores in a minute on a very broad level, but because that will make a significant difference, particularly at sensitive scores. So just to to carry this forward, so three checkers to clear on the deep back game is three is the doubling point. Let's say you've got 2 points to clear, and that's pretty much the passing point. It does, if we get the timing back down to 100 pips or so, it's still a pass. Actually, it's a really big pass here. Yeah, what you're going to do is, yeah. So that doesn't matter too much in the past. But what's going to happen here is that black will be forced to run out, and you'll lose the benefit of the two anchors. But you're still giving up quite a lot of gammons here. This is 50% gammons. So again, that's it. That's really all that Mochi talks about. Yeah, there are a few examples later. We'll go over them again when we go over all those his kind of quiz problems. But this is about it. So this is a fairly easy chart to memorize. I mean, it's a deep back game in which it's 3-2 in terms of doubling at 3, you pass at 2 points to clear, and for all the others, it's pretty much 4-3. You double when you have 4 points to clear, and you pass when you have 3 points to clear or less. So that's convenient. Now, and as I said, Mochi sort of kind of hand waves a little bit through to say, well, we're assuming adequate timing, which I presume he means by pip count, and it's generally about 100 pips is generally considered that. I don't think he says that in the book, but that's generally what I think of, and doesn't go into any details. But there are some details that are important here. That one that I think is useful to know, and that is keep in mind what black's game plan is, and the game plan for black is white's likely going to leave a shot. Black has to hit it, and then black has to contain white while he hopefully closes white out. It comes around and bears off. So and that's the plan, and there's a pretty reasonable chance that for that happening. Generally, these games are like 60-40, 65-35 in favor of whoever's doing the attacking here. And so the back game has a fairly high win percentage. The problem is it gives up gammons, and that's the problem. But when this is still a double take. There is a big difference when for this type of thing, where this is a double and a take. 4 points to clear, 3 points to clear. I'm sorry, it's a no double and take with 4 points to clear. 3 points to clear, it's a double and a take, big take. However, if black's distribution is not so great, it's a double and a pass. Now, I haven't gone through a comprehensive analysis of all the different possibilities here, but generally, if you've made the ace point, that's really bad if you're trying to play a back game. And it's very bad because it's very hard to contain white when you've made the ace point, because you have to clear out. You're probably going to leave an open point at somewhere, and if it's not the ace point, it's tough to close out white. The deuce point is not so great either. This is a take. 2 pips up, making the ace point, and it's a pass. So I think it's useful. It's not very hard to remember, but it's useful to know that if you're and this I think will come and play later. We'll talk about this in later sessions. Do you want to play a back game or not? Is sometimes an option you have, and we'll talk about how timing is really important in making your decision. But also in this decisions, have you made the ace point? And if you've made that deep point, your back game is a lot weaker. Um, so I would keep that in mind. Um, let's see.
Gary, I read that a chap called Alex Shagin, if that's the name, has recently produced a book on back games. Have you seen it, and does it go into these subtleties?
I haven't seen the book. I know that there is a book on back games out. Um, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Ray? Is that
No, but from what you tell me, March's book seems very, very sketchy. You're not getting much value if it doesn't go into all these subtleties you're now drawing to our attention.
yeah. Yeah, he's it's very sort of introductory with very broad uh, coverage. So, he presents that chart, which is a good chart to know. Um, but there's a lot left out. And
Indeed.
part of it is that there's a lot of nuances here that you really have to go over a lot of different examples to sort of get the idea. Um, and so that's why he does it. But again, it's this isn't a comprehensive chapter on back games. He's got a few
Right.
points that he's making, um, and there's certainly a lot more that could have been said. Um, okay, so that's kind of the point I would like to make here now. So this is a double pass, and the only difference here, you have adequate timing in terms of pip count, is that you've got the ace point. Um, and if black has made the ace point, that's generally a bad sign. You should shift your perspective toward passing because your back game is not going to be as effective. Um, just as give everyone a chance to look at this. Actually, let's not do that one. Yeah, so here we have a 2-3 back game, and I've given you the answer. Just do one where I haven't given you the answer.
Well, I think, oh, no.
Just a second. 2, 3. Okay, so here's one. So what do we got here? Is this a double take, double pass, no double?
You'd think it was double take from your guidance.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, so it's 3
100
checkers
pips
to
difference.
clear. And the question is this a deep back game or is this a high back game? If it's a deep back game, 3 points to clear is a double and a take. If it's a high back game, 3 points to clear is a double and a pass. That's kind of the simple view of it. So given that, is this a deep back game or not?
Well, you defined it as the 2-3 as a deep back game, didn't you?
Yeah. Well,
In
yes,
the chart.
it's
So what you
defined
asked,
implicitly by the chart, which we'll look at in a second again. But this is sort of a quiz to get get the
ah,
cobwebs out of everyone's mind to, because this is normally I would throw these up and let people, play
I
around with
think
it.
it's
I had to explain it.
Gary. I think it's too deep because White's got plenty of checkers to play with before I can even think about hitting them. I just think it's too deep.
Now, what do you mean by too deep?
I would pass this.
Okay. So it is a take. Um, And it's a 2-3, which we consider deep, a deep back game. And a deep back game, 3 points to clear is a take, 2 points to clear is a pass. What do we mean? So now, what do we mean with that? The deep back games are the 1-2, 1-3, 2-3s. And Mochi didn't say anything about the 3-4, but it looks to me like the 3-4 is considered a deep back game. So, maybe the easy way to remember that is anything three or back is deep, and then the 3-4 is deep. And whereas the high back games, they all start. The front anchor is either on the 5 or the 4 point. The Mochi didn't talk about the 1-4 or the 2-4. They look to me like they were high back games. So if you do a way to look at it, easy way to look at it is 3. The front anchor is 3 or back. It's a deep game. If the front anchor is either the 4 or the 5 point, you can call that a high back game, with the 3-4 being the exception. Depending on how much you want to try to memorize that. But if you want to keep it simple, if the front anchor is the 3 or back, it's a deep game. If it's a 4 or the 5, then it's a high game, high back game. And that's an easy way to remember it.
Gary?
Yeah.
This is Richard.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit confused about why you talk about points to clear as opposed to checkers. Because it looks like, you've got a high distribution on your black checkers over there. You're all on the 5, 6, 7, and 8, so you've got a lot of room to move.
Yeah.
But you've also got 12 checkers, and if you take 3 of those checkers, one checker from each of the 4, 5, and 6, and put it on the 7, now you've got 4 points to clear, but it's the same number of checkers. And I guess I'm not quite clear on why you're using the points to clear as opposed to.
Oh, okay. Well,
checkers to clear.
yeah. A couple things on that. First of all, it's easier to. So you're saying, why is this easier? Well, why is this easier than this? Is that kind of your? Yeah. So, couple things. One thing that wasn't talked about, and I think does matter, is the fact that this is a crossover here. You've got a crossover from the outer board to the inner board.
Right.
And that's a difficulty in itself. But the bigger thing, and so here you can't take checkers off, and you're going to be forced to, like if you had a 5 or a 6, the 6 has to come from here, and the 5 has to come from here. So you may be forced to move things that aren't great. Whereas here, the 6 obviously comes off, but with the 5, you can play it off the 6 point or the 5 point. So you have more flexibility there. You have more options. When you get down to here, now the 6 comes off the 5, and the 5 you can take the 5 off with either a 5 or move to the H point with a 4. So you're not forced to play things that you don't want to necessarily. A 2 doesn't play at all, for instance, here. Whereas if you had this and you rolled the 6, well, 6-2 would be okay, but it's like, well, a 3 doesn't play here in this case.
6-3.
So if you got a 6-3, well, I guess it does. Well, if you have a 6-3, I shouldn't say it doesn't play. 6-3, you're forced to take this as the 6, and this is your 3.
Right.
Here.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that there's a difference between having the checkers either all in your home board or still some to come in. But with a 1-2 back game, you can have all your checkers on a 3, 4, 5, 6. It'd still be 4 points to clear.
Yeah.
And yet you wouldn't have the crossover factor. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, not counting the crossover factor, why it is that it's points to clear rather than checkers to clear.
Well, it's just because the farther away the checkers are, it's more difficult. And so this is far easier to clear these without leaving a shot. Well, and if you do get to the point where you're leaving a shot, you're going to have more checkers off. So which, you know, that factors into, keep in mind that, okay, black may hit you, but he still has to contain white and get all these checkers off before you can come around. So, you know, if you're down to this, you know, and you leave a shot, but you have 10 checkers off, or like here, you leave a shot, you're hit, and you have, you know, here we've got 11 checkers off. Even if black does, you know, close you out, contain you and close you out, white is still favored to win because he's only got one checker. Assuming black only gets to one checker. Wow. That's just because the number of checkers off matter as well. So I, you know, similarly, you know, here, you know, not only do we have more checkers, more points to clear, which is a little bit more difficult. We don't have any checkers off, and we're going to have fewer checkers off if we haven't, you know, cleared them, gotten to the point where they've cleared them.
It seems like it's so totally dependent upon your checker distribution that it's hard to, I guess I'm having a hard time seeing
Yeah.
why points to clear is, I mean, you can,
Well,
I'm sure, come up with some distribution where it, you know, 15 checkers on the 3 and 4. I don't know how that would happen.
Yeah, well, there are certain, you know, there's certainly nuances here. Like I think this one, let's go back here. The 1-2 back game. This is actually a double, even though you know, on the chart it's a deep back game, and you're only supposed to double with 3 points to clear. So this is actually a double here, and that's because you don't have the crossover effect. So yeah, I think maybe your point is that we're really simplifying. This chart really simplifies things.
Right.
General
rule.
Yeah, it's a general rule, and to a
With
certain extent, it is, you know, it may be a little bit oversimplification, but it depends on, you know, how much you want to dig into this. If you want to, you know, I'm trying to target this to sort of like intermediate advanced players who are, you know, going to open players, and we're going to throw in some things that are really
Okay.
higher level.
I don't mean to monopolize that.
Yeah. So, but you know, as a good rule, these are generally good rules of thumb to, you know, to start out with. Now, if you want to look at these more and play with them more, you know, there are some nuances here. Just like this one, this is a deep back game. Yet you know, it's a double here, even though we've got 4 points to clear. The reason that it's a double here is that it's the crossover that matters here, that we don't have to do, so we can start taking checkers off sooner, and it's, you know, it's going to be easier to clear that. It's easier to clear.
And while
this
we're taking checkers off, black is you know, moving their checkers.
Right. Black is going to, black is on his way to crashing his board, basically. I suspect that if black had more timing here, say that this is probably no double. That's no, still double, still close. But yeah, so this, you know, it's more, you know, more the crossover effect here. Now, does the odd thing about this situation is if you got like this board, you might think that, okay, you're closer to a double here. In this case, it's no double. You've actually weakened your position because by losing the spares, which is kind of odd because generally, if you go, you know, if you start at this point, at some point you're going to get to something like this or this, because you've got to clear that, you know, you have 4 checkers on the 6 point, and at some point you're going to be down to 2 checkers on the 6 point. And here with 4 checkers on the 6 point, it's a double. But if you have, so you had 1 off, now you've only got 2 checkers the street, it's still double. If you didn't have any off here, well, a minute ago it wasn't double. So, but now it's not as big a double.
Yeah.
So again, these are kind of nuances that, you know, we wash aside by having a simple chart. You know, and but you know, the reason is that all the things that might be going on here are important. You know, I can't necessarily identify them. Mochi probably could actually, but he didn't in his book.
Right.
Uh, um, and you know, for most of it, you know, this is good enough. You know, even this one, if we didn't double, this was a double. You know, here according to the Mochi chart, we don't double. It is a double, but you know, it's a 0.014 error, 0.018. Let's do plus plus. It's a point. You know, and whatever the area is, it's small enough that we're not going to worry about it. To 0.007. I don't think even Mochi worries about 0.007.
Yeah.
He's, you know, that's sort of the difference between normal person and someone like Mochi, who's, you know, supremely focused on eliminating as many errors as he possibly can. Okay, I don't want to spend too much more time on this. The one thing I did want to point out is keep in mind, and I don't, again, I do this very superficially, but I just point out so that people are aware of it, that when we look at these, we're talking about unlimited games, you know, money games. But if we're looking at match play, these games are very volatile in the sense that it's 60-40 for the attacking person or less. I think this game was 55. 50, 55-45 basically. Um, um, but the match score is going to be very important because of the gammon. So this one is 32% gammons. Here, if we're 4-way, 2-away, you're going to want to play for the gammon. Actually, this is borderline pass, but this was a borderline double for a money game, and this is going to be a borderline pass at this score, at a sensitive score. And the normal, this is for money game, this is the double and a take. You put it at a sensitive score, 2-way, 4-way, where there's a huge gammon, so this is going to be, it's too good to double, but a huge blunder to pass, to take this. This is a 0.5, 0.6, I guess, error to take this for black when it's a close take for money. And again, I'm looking at the most sensitive scores, but in general, if you're behind in the match, you're going to want to double these. Probably you would have doubled it sooner, but if you're ahead in the match, you know, you're not going to want to take these, even if it's a take. Here's another one. This is a take, a borderline double, and now it's too good. It's a huge pass. Again, the idea is if you're ahead in the match, you don't want to take really gammonous cubes, and these cubes are really gammonous. Again, even though it's 55%, black is 45% the win here, so that it's nearly a 50-50 game. But white's got 45% or 35% gammons. Black, if you're ahead in the match, you're better off giving up the 1 point rather than risking the 4. Okay, that's pretty much it. Again, that's really broad brush. Mochi doesn't cover it all, but it's something to probably you'll have to think about it and practice. I'm not going to work with it much more with this section, but Anyway, keep that in mind if you're doing match play. All right, so that will be it for this session.